What is up, everyone? Steven here from Techmaker.tv. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to build out a fully reactive to-do list application with Ruby on Rails 6 and Stimulus Reflex. So what we're going to do is build this out here that you can see, and it's an app that's essentially a to-do list app like you've seen a million of before, but the thing about this is there's no JavaScript at all. So when we click on things and it's updating lots of stuff on the screen, all of this is happening via WebSockets and backend logic. And I want to show you how this works, and we're going to do it from the ground up. So if you're into it, let's get started. To get started, I'm going to create a new Rails app called To-Do app. So we can do that with Rails new to-do, and then I'm just going to say to-do-app. And this is going to set up a brand new app for us. Once that finishes, we can change down into our to-do app and then go ahead and open up the code. So I'm using Atom, so I'll just open it up with Atom. Once this is open, I'm going to go ahead and close a few tabs and make this full screen. Okay. Now, the first thing I want to do is open up my gem file. And I'm going to add another gem in here called nested scaffold. So you can just type that out, save it, and then we'll come back over to our terminal and we'll run bundle install, and now I'll go ahead and install that gem for us. Now that that's all installed, we're just going to run a couple of commands here in the terminal to actually get this created, or to set everything up. So I'm going to say Rails G, which is short for generate if you're not familiar, and then we'll say scaffold, and I'm going to make it called to-do list, and I'm just going to give it a title, essentially. And we may add some more to it later, I'm not sure, but for now let's just do that. Once this finishes, we're going to say Rails G nested scaffold, which is the gem we just installed, and I'm going to say to-do list / to-do item. And the to-do item, we want to basically give it a, let's say it's got a description, which is text, and then completed, which is a Boolean, maybe completed at, which is a date time, and then it references the to-do list, like this. And let's see if this works. Okay, now let's run our migrations, which will update the database. Once this finishes, we should be good to go, so we'll start our server and jump over to a web browser. Okay, so if we go over to our Chrome browser here and we open up localhost 3000, we're going to get the default Rails page. We can go to /to-do lists, and we should have our scaffold here. And then we can create new to-do list, and then we'll just say testing this out. We should be able to create a to-do list. So now if we go over here in the routes, what the nested scaffold basically did is set it up so that we can go / to-do items, and then we can create a to-do item, and we'll add a description. This is the first item, and we'll go ahead and create that to-do item. You can see that it's pointing at this to-do list object. So let's make a couple of changes real quick. So let's go over here to our to-do list, and let's make it print out the current to-do items under, just so we can see them. So back in our code, if we go to list show, right under our title here, let's just put an unordered list, and then let's say at to-do list dot to-do items dot each do to-do item, and we'll end that tag, or that loop rather, and then inside of here we'll just print out the description. So we'll say to-do item, to-do item dot description, like that. If we open up our to-do list Ruby class, you can see that it does already have many to-do items. So this should actually all just work. So let me go ahead and refresh over here. and you can see this is the first item. So we've actually got our to-do list with the to-do items nested under it working. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is style this up a little bit, and I'm going to kind of cheat and drop a couple of links over here in my application HTML file. So this is just for Bootstrap and then Font Awesome. And I'm going to do something maybe like mildly unusual, but it's just because this is kind of a simplified example. But here in my body tag in the application file, I'm going to add a class of, let's say, BG Light. And then around the yield tag here, so this is where all of the views will get printed out. I'm going to add a container. I'm going to add a row. I'm going to add a column of, let's say, MD10 COL LG8, and then we'll do offset MD1 offset LG2. Okay, let me line that up a little bit, and then we'll say, just inside of here, we'll say div card, and I think we'll just leave it there. So we just want to put everything inside of a card, and I'm going to give the card a margin top of 5 so that it's not right up against the top of the screen. And then the last thing I need to do is actually delete this scaffolds CSS that's been generated. So we'll just go ahead and get rid of that. And let's go refresh and see what it looks like. So now I've kind of got everything squeezed to the middle of the page, and we have our Bootstrap styles taking into effect here. So now let's go ahead and make this look good, so, or at least better. I'm not going to claim this is going to look amazing, but it should at least look decent. So let's go to our to-do list index. Let's just start here. So we're inside of a card, and that's why I said this is a little bit unusual, because normally you wouldn't put that at the top level like that, but it's going to make sense for this when it's done. So we'll keep the P notice there, I guess. That's fine. Instead of this H1, what I'm going to do is have a card title, or a card header, and then we'll just say to-do list, like that. And then instead of each of these tables like this, what I'm going to do is say UL, and that's going to have a class of list group. And then what we're going to do is say to-do list.each, and we'll just put this here. Then we'll create a list item, and we'll say class equals list group item. And then inside of there, we're just going to say link to, let's copy this actually. And then instead of show, I just want to link to the to-do list title and see what this looks like. Okay, so let me go ahead and get rid of all of this. And that new to-do list, I think we'll put that up here. And I'm going to go ahead and make this a deflex justify content between, and make this a span tag, bump that in there, and let's see what this looks like. Okay, so there's a weird thing going on with that. Let me see what's up with that. So it looks like this notice is actually the problem. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that and save this. I'm going to open up my application HTML. My syntax highlighting is messed up. That's fine, I guess, for now. I'm just going to put this right inside of here, just in case we need it, but we shouldn't really be too worried about it for this little demo. So now that's going to fix my styling. Okay, and if we click on this, we can see this looks kind of messed up, so we'll fix that now. Actually, I'm going to make that a button up here. So we'll have BTN, primary, and then BTN SM maybe. I think that looks pretty good. And then maybe this, we can give it like class card title. That didn't really do much for us. Let's just take that away, and we won't worry about that. Okay, cool. So now let's style this right here. So if we go back over here and we go to do list show, so let's copy everything from over here, and then we'll paste it and modify. So I don't want that again. My to-do list title, I'm going to put right here. My new to-do list thing, I don't actually need. Maybe we can make that like the link to edit or something like that. That could be good. So we'll say edit, and then I'll get this link there, paste that here, and then we'll make this like BTN secondary. And then down here, we'll go ahead and delete these. Then last, what we want to do is get to-do list.to-do items. And then here we'll change this to be item. And then we don't want to link to anything. I'm just going to print the description for now right here. And let's go ahead and go see what this looks like. Okay, so now we can edit, which the form page looks bad still. So we'll worry about that in a minute. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a few more to-do list items so that we can start fleshing out some of the design around there. I didn't want to go to a new tab. I want to open up to-do items, new to-do item. I'm not going to style any of this because I'm not actually going to use it really. This is a second item, and then we'll add another one. This is a third item. Okay, good enough. Let's go check it out. Alright, so I want to go ahead and add some styling here for when an item has been completed. And I'm going to add also a progress bar, probably just right here in the middle. Anyway, let's go try this out. So what do we want to do? Kind of making this up sort of as I go. I have some rough notes, but we'll see where we end up. So if we want to render a button over here that basically lets us mark this complete. So I'm going to add a div here. I'm going to do the deflex justify content between. I'm going to add a span tag here. I'm going to put the description. Then over here, I'm going to add a, let's say, link to, and then we'll say something like, we'll just give it a pound sign for now. Class BTN success. Like that, and then let's say something like I want to put an icon here for like a check mark, so we're actually just checking it off. And I don't actually know this off the top of my head, but let's try FA check, and let's see what that does. I did something wrong. What did I do? Looks like I'm missing. I don't know what I'm missing. Oh, that needs to have a do right here. There we go. Okay, cool. So that looks actually really nice. Okay, so let's add a few more things on this page. So what we're going to do, we're going to hook this up in a second so we can actually complete items. So don't worry about that just yet. We might want to make those smaller. I'm not sure. What I want to do though is work on this title section and then add this progress bar. So I'm going to kind of put some content in here, and then we're going to hook it up and make it actually do something. So the span tag, I'm going to make an H3 like this, and then I'm going to make this bold, and then under it I'm going to add a, well actually now that I'm thinking about this, I need to make this a div. I need to bump this up inside of it, and then underneath it I want to have a let's call it a p tag, and I want to give it a class equals text secondary so that it's a little bit lighter. And then I want to say something like 100% complete, and then something like the number divided by the number to do items, something like that. Obviously that's not going to make sense right now. Let's go look at what this looks like. So now that's crazy looking. Let's make that an H5. Let's say class equals M1 maybe. I'm going to make this small. And I'm just kind of eyeballing all of this. You can obviously do this totally differently. I'm going to make this an M0. I don't know why that button is expanding all the way like that. That's kind of weird. Maybe I need to put this inside of its own div. Okay, that looks a lot better. And now that that's there, I think I'm actually just going to keep it as a regular old button instead of a small button. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. I wonder what that looks like if I make that an M0 right here. Yeah, I like that even better. Okay, cool. Now let's add the progress bar, and let's pop back over in the browser and just go bootstrap progress bar. And we'll come in here and we will just grab a progress bar that looks decent. And let's go back and paste that. Where do we want to put that? Just under the header, maybe? Let's go refresh and see what that looks like. So that goes all the way across. We don't want that. I'm going to make this a card body right here. And then I'm going to put the progress just inside of the card body. That looks pretty good. I don't love this border radius thing that's happening here. I wonder if we should just put this inside of this card body also. Let's see what that looks like. It might look a little more uniform that way. I don't hate it. I can live with it. Let's give this progress an MB4 just to knock that down. This looks pretty good, I think. Let's stick with that. All right, so next, let's make a couple quick changes here. This progress bar, I'm going to give a class of BG info. And then down here, instead of BTN success, I'm going to make this BTN info, and I want to see what this looks like. So now those all match, and that's good. You can make an argument that green is better, but I'm not a big fan of that particular green. So let's just leave it like this. You can do whatever you want, obviously. The next thing we need to do is actually hook this up. So we need to make it so that we have an accurate count. Where do we have that? So up here, let's write the code that we want. So I need to have something that says something like at todolist dot percent complete. And then here we actually want to print out, let's say at todolist dot completed items. And then we'll say divided by at todolist dot total items. So none of this code exists yet, so we're going to have to go write these methods. While we're here, we also want the width of this to be this percent complete. So let's go ahead and grab this and just copy it. I'm going to paste it in here for 50, and I'm going to place it in here with this value now. So let's pop over to our to-do list and let's write these methods. So we'll start with the bottom item, which is just going to be total items, right? Total items is to-do items dot count. And so that I don't repeat that over and over again, I'm just going to cache it by saying to-do items. Actually, let's say total items or equals that. So basically what that's going to say is, if we've already looked this up, just pull the value out of this instance variable, otherwise calculate that. I'm going to do the same thing for, what's the other one? Percent complete. No, percent complete is going to end up being a division. So we need the completed items. So we'll say completed items at completed items or equals to do items dot complete dot count. Let's look at this schema really quick. I need to remind myself what I named that. So it's completed. So the reason I looked at that is because I want to make this say to do items dot completed dot count, and then on my to do item, I'm going to write a scope called completed, and that's going to basically say where completed is true. And so that's basically just a simple database query, and I think I got that syntax all correct. We'll find out in a minute. And then finally, we're going to have percent complete, which is going to be the completed items dot 2f, because we don't want to divide by 0 in the case that there's, well, actually that's not the same problem. I want to say return 0 if total items equals 0. So now we're going to avoid dividing by 0. But then we don't want to do integer division because then we'll get the wrong answer. So we want to convert that to a float, and then we'll say total items down on the bottom. We're going to multiply this by 100. And actually, I'm going to grab this and put this at the beginning. 100 times that, and then we will round. Okay, and let's go look at, let's round to 1 decimal point actually. So let's go refresh and see what happens. We may have broken something or maybe not. Okay, so now we have, no, the math works. This is good. So 0% complete, 0 out of 3. Now these are all acting like, well, they're doing the right thing. We haven't hooked it up yet so that we can check it off. So let's go over and to do items. Let's edit one of these and make it complete. And let's go back and look at this. So now we get 1/3 complete. Now I want to go ahead and hook this up so that if the thing is completed, we have the opposite button, and we have some, or we have like a different button that says, hey, mark this as incomplete, or incomplete rather, incomplete. And then maybe like gray out the text or something. So let's try that. Let's pop back over here. Down in our to-do list loop, or to-do item loop rather, what I want to do is say if to-do item dot completed, which is a method we get automatically because that's a Boolean, so we can ask it, are you completed or not? So then we'll say else. And I'm not going to do it in this episode, but I might do a future episode where we clean all this up with view components, because this could really benefit from that. And if you want to do that, go check out the episodes we've already done on view components. But if it's already completed, we obviously want to render something a little bit different. So what I'm going to do here is say class equals text muted, and I'm going to put this in an italic. And maybe actually we want to do EM right here. I don't really know. We'll come back to that. Right here I want to say BG light. Instead of info, I want to do dark, and then here I'm going to do times. Okay, let's check that out in Chrome. So that's pretty cool. So now we can see what stuff has been completed, and in theory we'll be able to mark it as incomplete. I keep wanting to say incomplete, but I don't think that's a word. Okay, so how do we go about hooking this up? Actually, there's one other thing we need to do first, which is add a form, and I'm going to do it below the progress bar and above the first item for adding a new item. So let's go over here to Bootstrap. I'm always a fan of, in these sorts of examples, just grabbing things that you like and sticking them in there. So I'm sorry for all the scrolling, but I'm looking for something in particular. It should be down here somewhere. I think that's actually it right there. So this thing I want to grab this input group right here, and we will see what we can make happen here. So you'll kind of see what I'm talking about in a second. So we wanted to go under the progress bar, and we're actually going to hook up a form right here. So I'm going to get rid of some of the classes I don't want. I'm going to do an MB4, and this I'm going to bump down to the bottom, and I'm going to actually make this a input group button. And then let's give it a just an A tag right now with a class of btn primary. And we'll just say add. This does not need this long ID. And the placeholder should be add a to-do item. And let's go look and see what this looks like. Okay, so that did not quite work out how I wanted on the styling. I wonder if there's an example of a button actually. I did this in a recent episode and I just don't remember off the top of my head what it is. You know what, I think I need to change this to be append and not prepend. I believe that's what I had done before. Let's go look at that and look. Okay. It's not perfect. I think I see what I did wrong there. Let's go ahead and grab this input thing and let's get rid of it entirely. What did I do there? I think I want to take this input group button, put that on the btn over here, get rid of the div. Let's try that and see what it does. Now you can see that it's like joined right there, so I think that looks better. Okay, so now let's get to hooking this up. So let's make the form work for now. If we open up our, let's go to item form. So what we need is form for to do item dot to do list. So I don't want to copy all of this. I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to put it right above this input group. I come down here and do end, and then we need to basically hook up this form to be what we want. Let's take a look at our form really quick. So I don't actually need most of that. What I want to do is make this a submit button. So right here we'll say f.submit add class, and then we'll copy all of this stuff, put that there. And then this text field, I need to make it a text field for the title or the description. It's the description. So this needs to be a f.text field for the description, class form control, and it needs to have this placeholder of add a to-do item. Okay, so now let's open up our to-do items controller. So on create, what I want to have happen is basically say, well, that may actually be, I just want to have this redirected to-do item to-do list. And I don't want a notice because it's just going to appear on the screen and that's going to be it. So let's go back and give this a try. Undefined method to-do list for nil class. I think this actually should be to-do list here because we're on the to-do list show. And then this should be to-do item, and we need to go to our to-do list controller, and on show we need to say at to-do item equals to-do item dot new, and let's go refresh. Now let's test this out, and you can see that just appears at the bottom. Okay, there's one last thing that I wanted to do, which is add like some kind of tag up here or something. I think there's a no, it's a badge. So I want to add like a little badge inside of my heading up there, saying like what the current status of the to-do list is. You'll see what I mean in just a second. So up here we've got this H5. I'm going to go ahead and throw that on a new line. I'm just going to paste this here. And let's make this like a badge primary maybe. Like that. I think that looks pretty cool. What I want this to say is like if there's some stuff that's finished but not all of it, I want it to say in progress. And if there's some stuff, if everything's finished, I want it to say complete. And if nothing started, I want it to say not started. So let's make that the case. Let's go to our to-do list and say status. We'll add a new method called status here. And then we'll say case percent complete. And then we'll just say when 0 not started, when 100 we'll say complete, and we'll say else in progress. And then we'll say, I want to go ahead and convert this to an integer here so that this actually makes sense, because in the case where this is complete, the percent complete is actually going to be 2f right here, so it's going to be 100.0. So we'll convert that to an integer, and then let's come over here. We'll test it out and make sure that that works. But I'm going to go ahead and say to-do list.status. And then I want to come down here and say, I guess I'm just going to call this badge color. And then I'm going to do case status. And then when, actually I'm going to copy this exact thing, which is going to give us a refactoring opportunity later. But when it's the badge color, or when it's 0, I want it to be BG, what is that? That actually should be badge. So we just want to use the word like primary or whatever. So let's see, what could this be? Secondary. Actually, let's make that dark. Let's make that let's make that info to match our teal color we've been using, and let's make it primary if it's in progress. So let's refresh over here and see what happens. Undefined local variable or method to-do list. Let's fix that. So I need an @ sign right here. Okay, so it looks exactly like it did. Let me go over and edit one of those items, or edit all the items to be not started basically. So let's go to do items here. So the one that's completed, let's edit and make it incomplete. And then let's go back and look at our page here. So the color is not working, but the text is working. So let's fix that. Oh, it's not working because I didn't change it here. So this should be at to-do list dot badge color. Okay, let's try that. Okay, cool. So finally, let's go ahead and hook this up so that it's fully interactive. So I'm going to go over here and stop my server. We need to install a couple of things really quick. So I'm going to say bundle add, and we're going to add a tool called Stimulus Reflex. And this is going to reinstall everything in my bundle basically, or just update my bundle with Stimulus Reflex rather. And you can see that here. And then now I want to run Rails Stimulus Reflex install. I think I might need to actually say Rails G Stimulus Reflex install. Let's see what happens here. No, looks like that's it. Okay. So then once this finishes, we'll actually generate our first reflex. So I have some other videos on more specifically what Stimulus Reflex is, so I'm just going to kind of use it here, and I'll let you kind of go check those out if you want. But it's really awesome, and I'm pretty pumped about it, so we're going to use it here to hook all this up. So we're going to say Rails G Stimulus Reflex, and then I'm going to say to do item, and we'll have a look at this. So let's jump back over to the code, but let's start the server first. Okay, so now we have this reflexes directory, and we have this to do item reflex. We have an example reflex in here, I guess. So I'm going to go ahead and close some files here. Let's go ahead and open up our, I forgot where I was, to-do list show. So down on my links down here, on my link to with the icons, what I want to do is add a new data attribute, and what we're going to do is say reflex, and then we're going to specify what we want to happen. So what we can do is say something like on click, and I'm going to give it, I'm going to basically an arrow pointer, and I'm going to tell it to look for the to do item reflex, which we can see over here is there. And now I need to tell it which method I want it to call, and in this case, because I'm clicking on this FA times with the dark color, I want to actually mark it incomplete, so I'm going to say mark incomplete. And I'm also going to add another data attribute here, which is just going to be the to do item ID. So I'm going to say to do item.id, and now I'm going to copy this and paste it on my other one. But instead of mark incomplete, I'm going to say mark complete. So let's open up that to do item reflex, and let's add those methods. So there we go. So essentially what happens here is this is calling a method on this object via webhooks over action cable in a nutshell. So we're going to say mark incomplete is one that we want, and then we'll say mark complete. And all we need to do in here is look up the to-do item. So we're going to say to-do item equals to-do item dot find, and then we're going to pull the ID from that data set by saying element dot dataset dot ID. So you automatically get this element object right here. And then you can interact with anything you pass in through the data on there. I think we go in a little bit more depth on some of the other episodes, so I'm not going to go into that here. Then we can say to do item dot update, and we'll say complete is true, and then completed at is, and actually that should be completed, I think, and time dot now. And we're going to do the exact same thing on mark incomplete. We're going to make that false, and we're going to make that nil. Let's go give this a shot. There's a good chance that we didn't quite get this hooked up right, but we're about to find out. Is that server running? Looks like it. Okay, so let's just click on one of these. You see that? So just instantaneously, we have several different things on the screen changing at once. So you have the tag up here, you have the percent, the number, and the progress. So we can just go through and quickly see how reactive that is. So I've got a couple more things I want to do just to kind of finish up. I'm going to copy this, actually all of this, and I'm going to go back to the index page. And let's use this down here inside of this list item. So I'm actually going to make this an LI, and instead of the card header, we're going to make this the list group item. Let's get rid of, well, we want to keep this, right? And I'm going to put that here. We'll probably change this up just a little bit in a second. But let's go see what this looks like. So if I go back to to-do lists, of course I'm going to get undefined method because I have all these @ in here. So let's just go ahead and kind of quickly jump through here and get rid of all those. All right, now let's give this a try. So that looks pretty good. I don't want the edit in there. And I really want the whole thing to be a link here. And I don't want there to be any, let's see, how can I do that? I want to just make this say todolist.title. And right above this div, actually, let me try to wrap the whole list item. So I'm going to say link to to-do list, do, and then wrap the whole list item in there. And then in my link to, I'm going to give this a class of text decoration none. And then my h5, I'm going to give a class of text dark. And let's go see what this looks like. So now if I hover over anything on this list item, it looks pretty good. The one other thing I wanted to do is I want to put this inside of a card body. I didn't mean to close that tag, but I guess that works. Okay, now let's refresh, and we get that. So now these things look kind of similar throughout. Okay, cool. So the very last thing I want to do is find a way to add a back button up there. And actually, let's make that to-do list in H5 so that it's uniform. And let's make this an H6. So this should be H5 right here. Sorry, I'm just trying to work out like something that looks pretty good. Yeah, that looks better. All right, so finally, what's left? I just want to add a little back button here so that we can get back to the index page. And in actual fact, I think normally you'd have it like outside this box, but everything in the app is inside this box, which is sort of a problem, I guess. So I'm going to just kind of stuff it inside this card header. And it's not going to be the greatest thing in the world, but I'm going to say div class equals col2, div class is col10. Let's copy all of this and put it inside the column 10. Let's just see what that looks like really quick and make sure I don't need to move any classes around. Looks like I probably do. I probably need to take this and put it here, maybe on the column itself. Let me put that, what is this wrapping? That's wrapping that. Let me put another div right here, and I'm going to take all of this and cut it. Put that there, and then I'm going to copy this or just bump all this up in there. Maybe it was fine the way it was. I don't know. Let's see what happens if I put something here. Yeah, something's not playing right. Oh, I need to put a row. That's the problem. So I need to put a row, and then we need to put all of this there. Now let's see what we have. That's what I wanted to see. Perfect. Now let's do a link to back. We could actually do link to do list path class btn dark do, and then let's make an icon. Let's say class equals FAS FA angle left, I think. Let's see what this looks like. Cool. So that looks pretty nice, actually. I guess we probably don't need a column 2. We can make that a 1. We can make this 11. That's much better. I want to check out one other thing really quick because I don't really like that X. Let's do font awesome, and let's do a quick search for undo. I think there might be like an undo icon. Undo alt. Let's go with undo alt. So down here in my times, I'm going to do undo alt, see what happens. Let's go back over there and refresh. Yeah, so that looks better, I think. The X has a delete connotation, I think, and in actual fact, we don't have a delete icon on here, and we should probably add like a little X where you can delete the item. I will go ahead and leave that to you as an exercise. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep going with this particular app concept for future episodes or not. I've been doing a lot of really long series lately, and I may pick this up and keep going with it, but I've got several other series that I'm trying to wrap up right now. But I thought this was an interesting sort of encapsulated, for the most part, app idea where I could show the kind of reactivity you could build out pretty quickly using this Stimulus Reflex tool, and I wanted to do that. So anyway, I think that's it for this episode. It's gotten quite long for me, so if you like this episode, be sure to give it a thumbs up. It helps me out a ton. If you want to see more stuff like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and also be sure to check out techmaker.tv, our website. We're adding quite a few series over there, and we're going to be adding some pro series soon. So definitely check all of that out, and I'll talk to you in the next episode. Thanks for watching.